Good morning students. Today we will study about friction, that is second unit, about chapter 3 second unit, friction. In friction we have already taken 2-3 lectures, and in that we have studied about what is friction and what is friction, about its effect and about its advantages. All these things we all have already studied. Those who have not studied, I am going to make a quick revision, so just see it. What is friction? Friction is an opposing force. Friction is actually a opposing force which act on a body in the opposite direction of force applied. In the opposite direction of force applied. Suppose you are applying a force in the direction towards east. If you are applying a force on a body towards east, what happen? An opposing force will act on the body, that means towards west. An opposing force will act on the body towards west. Understand? It is a automatic force which act on a body when we are applying force on the body. Understand? So this is the opposing force and it is known as friction force. We can also say it frictional force. So this is a friction force, and we have studied about its effects. In effects we have studied that friction opposes motion. Friction always opposes a motion when we are pushing or when we are driving a vehicle, when we are moving something, when we are walking. That means what? A force automatically comes to play which will oppose your motion. Is known as friction. Friction produces heat. Second effect, friction produces heat, that we have already studied. That friction, when there is some work is going on, a friction, because of frictional force, what happens? There heat will automatically produce. Like for many hours a TV will be switched on, a computer will be switched on, or if you are using a mobile for a long time, you will observe, you have feel that at back what happens? There must be a heating problem. There must be a heat produced. So what is that? Because of friction, that heat comes out. Friction causes wear and tear. That is the third effect. Friction causes wear and tear. Wear and tear means after using a long time, because of friction, what happens? That your clothes, your shoes and many other things, everything will get wear and tear. Wear and tear means टूट जाना या फिर फट जाना. Understand? Then we have studied about advantages of friction. In advantages of friction, we have studied we will not able to walk in the ground. Yes, we cannot walk if we have a slippery surface. Like if someone asks you to walk on the ice, if someone asks you to walk on the ice, what happen? You will not able to walk. Why? Because it is so slippery that the opposing friction force will almost zero over there, and because of which you will not able to walk and you will fall down. You have feel that in the restaurant or in a hotels, when there is a very slippery tiles, what happens? You will feel a bitter hard to walk on that tiles. You will have that fear to walk on that slippery tiles. Why? Because you will feel that if you will walk certainly like that you are walking on the ground, if the same way if you will walk, what happens? You can slip and you can fall down. So why? Because that slippery tiles have very less opposing force, that is friction is very less, so you can fall down. So what happens? Friction, this is the advantage that we can, if we are walking on the ground, is because of the friction force. Second is, it is for the same reason that tires of the truck and all, what happens? It is deep grooved, because of which what happens? Friction is more, and what happens? It will balance, and that slipperiness and all will never happen in that truck, and it will have a safe drive. Third, it is for the same reason that knot of the silk thread slips easily. Knot of the silk thread slips easily. because there is a very less friction. The writing on a paper with a pencil or a ball pen is possible only because of friction. So all these are 6-7 points that we have studied in our previous video. Now today we will study about disadvantages of friction. So first, what it is written, friction. All of you open your book first, because it is about just an explanation. I will read point to point and I will explain. What you have to do, you have to open your book and look on this page number 57, disadvantage of friction. So open you all. See, first point, friction wears out the soles of shoes. It wears out the tire of all kind of vehicle. Thus the soles of shoes or tire need replacement from time to time. So yes, friction, what? Friction, because of friction, what happens? Our soles in the shoes, we have seen that what happens? It will get wear out. Understand? It will get wear and tear out. Understand? So क्या घिस जाते हैं सोल्स, क्या है जूते के सोल, क्या है जो घिस जाते हैं काफ़ी यूज़ करने के बाद. ओनली वाई? बिकॉज ऑफ द फ्रिक्शन. सेकेंड, फ्रिक्शन वियर्स आउट द मूविंग पार्ट ऑफ द मशीनरी. इट ऑल्सो हीट्स अप द मूविंग पार्ट एंड दे नीड रिप्लेसमेंट फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम. सो दैट machine is used where? In the industry. What happens? That big machines, what happen? We need to replace some parts of that machines from time to time. Why? Because of the friction. What happened? They get wear and teared. Understand? So to avoid any incident, any accident, to avoid, what happens? We used to replace those parts from time to time, so that it will have safe work on that machine. Safe working on that machine. Third, force of friction increases weight of object. Thus we have to spend lot of energy to move heavy object. So yes, what happens due to friction? What happens? There is a opposing force. I have told. Because of that, what happens? That heavy objects, it will not so easier to move. So what happens? We need to apply a greater force to move that heavy object from one place to other place. So all these are the disadvantages of friction. Now we will study about methods of reducing friction. So in this, first one is about streamlined shape. What are streamlined shape? See, streamlined shape. Streamlined shape is that shape which is narrow at mouth, which is narrow at mouth and broad at end. Understand? Streamlined shape is that which is narrow at mouth and broad at end. So what happens? That streamlined shape, many animals which are in this form, animals are mostly what? They are streamlined, because their mouth and their starting part, what happens? It is very narrow, and because of that, what happens? Friction is very less, and they can walk, they can run very rapidly in comparison to us, or in comparison to other thing. And on seeing that, what happens? We have designed many vehicle or many things, many machines in the streamlined shape, like aeroplane. An aeroplane, what we will see? We will see that there is a streamlined shape from mouth to the end. So that rocket and that ship, all these are streamlined. Aeroplane, rockets, that ships, all these are streamlined. So what happens? Because of streamline, what happens? It will move faster and it will reduce friction. So this is one of the method of reducing friction. What? Make the object, make the body a streamlined, and what happens? Friction will get reduced. Second, polishing a rough surface smoothens irregularities on it. So polishes, that means when we will polish, you have seen that that what happens many times, you have seen that what happens in your house only. What happens? That some machinery part need to be polished for a time to time. so that it will work smoothly. In industrial area you will observe this. If you have seen factories, if you have went to any factory, you will see there that what happens, those machinery part, what happens, it will need to polish. Why? Because if we will not polish, what happens, a rust will act on it. Because of rusting, what happens, that machinery will, that machine parts will become will wear and tear, and it will break and fallen down. So what happens, to reduce friction we need to polish those machinery's part so that it will work smoothly. Third, by oiling or greasing the moving part of a machinery. By oiling and greasing, third is by oiling and greasing, what happens, we will reduce friction. Like you have seen that in your bicycle or in your motorcycle or in a car, when it went for servicing, you all have went sometimes with your father. You have seen that what happens, they those person who will do this work of servicing of motorcycle vehicles, bicycles, but when they put a grease, they will oil your parts in the vehicle. Why? Because of that, what happens, a friction will reduce, and what happens, your bike will move smoothly. So it is a way to reduce friction. Fourth, friction can be reduced by providing wheels. For example, suitcase if dragged on a floor will offer a large amount of friction. So yes, when we will have a wheels on any luggage or any heavy part, what happens, it will reduce friction and we can move it easily from one place to another place. Like a heavy luggage on your trolley bag, what happens, there is a small wheels, because of which what happens, we can take it away from one place to another place with a very heavy luggage on it very easily. Why? Because that wheels produce a rolling friction and it is very less as compared to other frictions. So this is one of the point. Now fifth, ball bearing consists of a small steel ball. When these steel balls are placed between two cylindrical moving surface, they reduce friction considerably. Ball bearing are commonly used in bicycle, scooter, cars, truck, etc. You have seen that in your bicycle, that in your rim, what happens, there are some small that balls will be placed by the person, by the bicycle maker. Small that balls will placed in the rim, so that it will work smoothly. Understand? So it will also reduce frictions. You have seen in your bicycles. So all these are the points of reducing frictions. Now what it is written, friction as a necessary evil. Force of friction brings about wear and tear in moving bodies. It produces heat and slow down moving body. A lot of energy is wasted in overcoming friction. However, if there were no friction, the body will either slip or will not move. Furthermore, the moving body will not stop. Even walking on the surface of earth would have been impossible. Thus, we can say that the force of friction is a necessary evil. Force of friction is a necessary evil means force of friction is a necessary means जरूरी, बहुत ही जरूरी है. ये एक ऐसा काम जो कि बहुत ज़रूरी है. क्यों? क्योंकि अगर फ्रिक्शन ही नहीं होगा तो हम भी क्या है, अगर फ्रिक्शन वर्ल्ड में ना हो तो हम भी क्या है, मूव ही नहीं कर सकते. वी कैन फॉल, वी कैन स्लिप, ओनली वी कैन स्लिप फ्रॉम वन प्लेस टू अनदर प्लेस. सिर्फ हम स्लिप कर सकते हैं, हम चल ही नहीं पाएंगे. इसलिए फोर्स क्या है, एक नेसेसरी इविल है, सो दैट वी कैन वॉक ईजली. अंडरस्टैंड? ये methods of increasing friction. In certain situations we need to increase frictions. There are many cases where we need to increase frictions to avoid accidents. So what are they? See here first. Tires of all kind of vehicle are provided with a deep groove so as to increase friction. This prevents the vehicle from skidding on wet road or sharp turns. I have already explained this, that a deep groove is done on the vehicle's tire. Why? Because it will not get slip on the wetty surface or on the some slippery surfaces. So it will not get fall, it will not get slip. Understand? So it will be deep grooved, and many times you will observe that your vehicle gets slipped. That means what? Now your tire is need to replace. Okay. Second is the soles of shoes of athletes and mountaineers are provided with the spikes and grooves. You have seen that football players also, and that spikes of the mountaineers you all have seen. What happens? They have spikes on their shoes. Why they have spikes? Why they use spikes? They use spikes so that they will not get fall. Understand? Because on mountaineering what happens? There may be some very slippery surface comes on that. So what happens? On that also they will not get fall. It will reduce friction. It will reduce friction from that mountains to your body. It will reduce friction. So third industrial belt are provided with rough surface so as to increase friction. Industrial belt you have seen in your floor mill where आटा चक्की में आपने देखा होगा कि there is a belt because of which whole machine runs. So that belt is mostly a rough belt. Why? Because to increase friction, so that if friction is more, that belt will not get out. It will not turn out. Sorry, it will not turn out. That means what? अगर वो rough belt होगी तो क्या होगा? वो उतरेगी नहीं. ठीक है, जल्दी जल्दी उतरेगी नहीं, वो वर्क करती रहेगी. So that is why we have rough belt on industrial machines, so that it will keep on doing work without any problem. Fourth, grinding of stones of floor mill have rough surface. This increase friction and help in fine grinding of the grains. That I have already explained, that grinding part in a floor mill. So all these are the methods of increasing friction, reducing friction, advantage and disadvantage that we all have studied. So basically what comes in our mind, that friction is a very necessary evil. Friction is very necessary evil. Why? Because of friction only many work is able to happen. Like walking on the ground is only because of the friction. That because of friction only what happens? The moving, the safe driving of vehicle happen. Why? Because we deep grooved the tires of the vehicle. So that wear and tear of the shoes, soles and vehicles tires, so all these are happen because of friction. So all these are advantages, disadvantages, reducing, method of reducing, method of increasing frictions. So what you all have to do, you all have to study these effect of frictions, that advantages, disadvantages, method of increasing friction, method of reducing friction, each and every point very clearly, because when it will come about on paper, we can make questions from here. Understand? This is just to advise for you all that study each and every point very carefully in your book. Why? Because we can, when I will make paper from inside, and inside means what? From here only. So all these points are very necessary. You all need to remember each and every point. So I have studied till here. We have studied. Now from unit of force till other part we will do in our next video. So I will request, I will suggest to each and every student to study that friction till here, because it is very important chapter, and each and every point on mentioned in advantages, disadvantages, increasing, decreasing friction, each and every point is very important. Question can come from here. Thank you.